China's President Xi Jinping in Florida, with the leaders of the planet's two biggest economies set to be keenly watched. On the data front, Thursday will see initial jobless claims released at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. When we look at the numbers there, all the figures seem to show positive figures there. Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 0.11%. S&P 500 is tilting up 0.10% and Nasdaq up 0.10%. In Asia, markets were mostly lower today as traders focused on a meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping later in the day. Japanese markets closed lower due to the strength in the yen. The Nikkei 225 dropped 1.40%. South Korea's Kospi fell by 0.37%. Australia's benchmark ASX 200 closed 0.34%, pressured by its telecommunications and financial sub-indices. But mainland Chinese shares bucked the trend. The Shanghai Composite tracked higher by 0.35%, while the Shenzhen Composite closed 0.29%. Hong Kong's benchmark Hang Seng Index was lower by 0.39%. Away from the markets, the Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund has concluded the Article 4 consultation with West African Economic and Monetary Union. The directors welcomed the region's continued strong economic performance with robust growth and low inflation. They, however, noted that risks to public debt sustainability and external stability have risen. They underscored that sustaining high growth would require well-coordinated and consistent national fiscal policies and regional monetary policy to contain vulnerabilities and safeguard macroeconomic stability. According to the IMF, growth-friendly fiscal consolidation is key to reducing public debt and rebuilding foreign reserves buffers. The fund, while urging member countries to adhere to their current budget deficit reduction plans, it emphasized that adjustment efforts should be carefully calibrated and should focus on reforms to enhance revenue mobilization and contain current expenditure while protecting priority capital and social spending. In the meantime, the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, Christine Lagarde, says Egypt is implementing a strong economic reform program to help the economy return to its full potential, achieve more growth and create more jobs. Ms. Lagarde made this statement after her meeting with Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in Washington. Their discussion was on the progress of Egypt's economic reform program, supported by the IMF's $12 billion extended fund facility arrangement. According to her, IMF is working to help the government and the central bank bring inflation under control and support the steps the Egyptian authorities are taking to protect its poorest and most vulnerable citizens. March 31 marked the first anniversary since Central African Republic President Faustin Archange Touadéra took office. Touadéra has been struggling to make strides in development, security, justice and the reconstruction of the state as fighting has flared in recent months around Bambari in the center of the country between two rebel groups that formerly belonged to the Seleka Alliance and have fallen out in a fight for territory and control of illicit tax revenues. A year ago, the people of the Central African Republic pegged their hopes on their new president, Faustin Archange Touadéra, a choice that was widely seen as a step towards reconciliation in the country following years of turmoil. At the time, Touadéra says he would focus on building peace and enacting reforms to end violence. Today, the streets of Bangui are buzzing with activity, with traffic and street vendors and construction coming up in parts of the city. But huge challenges remain in C.A.R., one of the world's most unstable countries, which is divided along ethnic and religious lines and is largely still controlled by warlords. Despite a respite in violence following Taudero's election, violent clashes in parts of C.A.R. among dozens of armed factions has raised concerns on the country's reforms and reconciliation. In Bangui, traders say business is slowly coming back, but accessing merchandise is difficult due to insecurity.
The economy is slowly getting back on track, but security remains a problem, especially when traveling in some parts of the country. In order to go to Mbulaye or Douala to buy merchandise, you need to go with an escort. We used to travel without needing escorts of members from the peacekeeping contingent. Today, to go to Douala and come back with merchandise is a whole problem. There is total insecurity in provinces, but Bangui remains safe.
Security remains a major worry amongst many. Only some of the 400,000 people displaced by the turmoil are only beginning to return. Residents of Malika neighborhood in Bangui say safety is slowly returning, although many still fear returning.
Armed groups used to walk around day and night, but that's no longer the case, so that's very encouraging. Even though the president just started his job, we need to trust him and help him along with other international partners.
Many fear that rising tensions will continue to impede the country's recovery. According to aid agencies, some 2.3 million people, almost half of the population, are in need of humanitarian assistance, and about 20% of the country's population is still displaced. Nearly $400 million is needed to fund Central African Republic's 2017 humanitarian response plan and provide aid to 1.6 million people this year. International donors promised 2.06 billion euros in longer-term aid last year. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, the program continues. To stay with us.